What's it been like for you to see like the UFC come up and fighting come up and explode the way it has over the years?
It's a great question, because when I fought in Japan in front of 60,000 people, I looked and I go, I know this can be a big sport. Obviously, this is a big sport here. Now, the question is, how do we get the American public to relook at combat sports with an open mind? Because at that point in America, we grew up, my generation grew up, fighting was in a ring, boxing was king, the heavyweight champion of the world was the baddest man on the planet. Nobody knew anything about jiu-jitsu and takedowns and kickboxing and all these other things, right? So America had to be convinced that these guys from these other sports and martial arts could really beat a Mike Tyson, could really compete against the heavyweight and that the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing wasn't really the baddest man on the planet. And it took Dana White to actually fall in love with the sport, see its potential, realize it can become a major sport, but it has to be a sport. It can't be illegal, banned in 48 states, hair pulling, biting, which is where UFC was at that point. That's why it was banned in 48 states. That's why it lost its pay-per-view. That's why it was $50 million in debt. But Dana had the brains and the balls and the connections. He had friends that were in the casino business that had the money that it required to buy the UFC out of bankruptcy. And that's what he did. And the first thing he did after that is he hired Mark Ratner, who was the most respected boxing administrator in the world. He was the head of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So he oversaw all the big boxing events. Dana hired him to put together a rule set that would make UFC a real sport. And then he went out and had Mark Ratner go to every state until he got it approved in every state. And New York, of all places, was the last place to finally go okay and legalize UFC. But it was Dana's vision, Dana's connections with people who could buy that sport out of UFC. And of course, it was Dana's idea to do the Ultimate Fighter reality show, which put it on free television and allowed the world at no cost to fall in love with the fighters in the sport and realize this is a legitimate sport and not a backroom brawl.
Yeah.
Dana White gets all the credit, and he, for whatever you may agree or disagree with some of his other opinions and some of the other things he does and what he pays, if it wasn't for Dana White, nobody in martial arts would be making any money today.